we ask that you repeat the question from the audience member so that we can get it on film a little bit better. Back there, yes, please.
So, specifically for Pleasanton, Livermore, and Dublin, do you know if the ADUs are allowed for investors, or are they only for homeowners? Because I know you've been speaking a lot about homeowners.
The question is, in the Pleasanton, Livermore, Dublin area, are ADUs available for investors? And I can speak specifically to Pleasanton. I have dealt with some of them and actually went in and did some checking on what the Pleasanton's current situation is. They do not have any restriction on who lives in the secondary unit. The restriction that the city of Pleasanton has right now is that one of the units must be owner occupied. But that is different in different cities, because in Berkeley, and I believe in Oakland, neither of them have to be owner occupied. In Pleasanton specifically right now, there has to be one unit that is owner occupied. So that's something you need to check with each specific city when you're looking at zoning and other aspects.
Just to add on, so that's true for Contra Costa County, San Ramon, Alameda County, Walnut Creek, Pleasanton, all of the areas basically up to 685, 84. I've only heard of Oakland and Berkeley being allowed to not have owner occupied either.
Thank you.
Yes, right here.
Okay, I have a question that's probably for you. My understanding is that in Alameda County, the detached has not been approved. And so I wanted verification on that, but also along with that, my understanding of one of the advantages of doing an ADU rather than as something that's not called an ADU is that you could share many of the utilities from the main house, so you don't have to get permits for new electric, new sewer, new gas, that type of thing. Is that correct?
Let me try and paraphrase this again. So Alameda County, your question is, can you do a detached ADU? You can, but it's pretty small. They're actually probably the smallest allowed ADU in all the areas we work. And then secondary question, benefit of doing a detached ADU is you don't have to do all the different utility fees. This is true. That was actually one of the bills that was passed by California. You used to have to, in a lot of places, add a secondary utility. Does anyone know how much a water meter costs?
A lot.
About 30 grand in most places. So now you don't have to do that. So that's $30,000 savings, right? The only caveat is usually you have to pay a secondary fee to the sewer, whoever the sewer connection fee. It's about $1,000 to $500, somewhere around there. Small compared to everything else. But they don't let you tie into the existing sewer underneath the home in most places, so you have to do a secondary attachment. But other than that, it's a huge savings. And if you go on our website, we actually have a brochure you can download that tells you the different sizes and stuff for the different counties, so you can see exactly what it is. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head.
This gentleman has a
Yeah,
hand.
as a listing agent, how do I price a house that has an ADU, but there's no such ADU in nearby house?
That, the question is, how do you value the ADU when there isn't another one in the area to make it a similar situation? That's one of the reasons why ADUs can be a challenge, can be interesting, can be a nightmare, depending from the appraiser point of view, depending on where the property is. And so the situation is that Fannie Mae right now says that if you have an ADU and it is legal and permitted, they want the appraiser to find at least one of the comparables that has an ADU. If the ADU is not necessarily legal, and that you can find 3 properties in the area that have similar types of ADUs, then they'll look at that. The issue is finding them, you're right, and that goes back to my comment about help us out. Help out the appraisers and put that information into your comments. And sometimes what we need to do is to go back in time. Maybe in the last 6 months, there hasn't been an ADU in your market area that sold, but there was one a year ago. And then we look at that and make adjustments for time, either up or down, depending on what's happened with the market. Or we go to a similar neighborhood that is, and it may not even be a similar neighborhood in Fremont. It may be a similar neighborhood in one of the other surrounding communities that we can show 2 or 3 properties add X% of the value. And we can work backwards on it that way. It just makes it, again, more complicated. And you need to make, the lender needs to make sure somehow that the appraiser that is doing the appraisal or the loan has the experience and the knowledge to actually go back and do this type of analysis. It's a much deeper type of analysis.
I did want to mention one thing with regards to these ADUs, and I mentioned my own personal situation, having an in-law unit rented out. One thing that we all want to keep in mind is I do pay business city tax to Oakland for that income. I do pay. So I report it so I can stay above the radar, right? But keep in mind, you will have taxes on that income.
Gentleman in the back. Nope, you're the one in the back.
Nobody behind me?
Yeah.
So many houses are being built these days with casitas. Is there a definition of an ADU versus a casita? Can you convert a casita to an ADU? From a lending standpoint, how do you deal with those two?
So a lot of buildings or a lot of new construction with casitas in the back, and you convert it. What's the definition to make it a casita versus an ADU, and then can you convert it to an ADU? Correct? Is that the question? So for my point, yes, you can convert it to an ADU. Realistically, an ADU has to have a kitchen, has to have a refrigerator and some sort of cooktop. Has to have a bathroom, a fully functional full bathroom, shower, toilet, sink, and it has to have living space, i.e. a bedroom. It could be a studio bedroom, it could be whatever. Beyond that, anything else you add is a bonus. So that's the definition for whether I mean, a casita could technically be an ADU if you get it classified as such, if it has those things. Or you can just add those bits.
Man in the blue?
No, we got some more.
Oh, okay, we'll come back to you.
Well, the only thing I would say from a lending standpoint is we're going to simply go off of the appraisal. We're not, we just really don't care. We really don't care. So that's what we're dealing with. The appraiser is the one that's going to really have, as Penny has indicated, she has the challenge, or they have the challenge, appraising the property. And again, when it comes to the financing side of it, the appraiser is not just looking for comps, but the appraiser also is having to read plans, right? The plans that are going to be constructed and give value to those plans prior to the construction. So.
Okay, and let's say your casita has been built and it's been there for 5 years, and an appraiser has to come in and look at it. If it meets the requirements for an ADU that are legally permitted in that community, so if we're in Pleasanton or Fremont or Livermore, and their guidelines, their legal definition of what an ADU is, fits what your casitas is, it can be considered an ADU. Now, when we were talking before about value and how much added value it is, that's going to have to be looked at, and it may be that the casitas, as it sits, it is just a small kitchen, just the minimal kitchen that you have to have, and a full bath, and a studio room may not have any different value. It may or may not have a different value if it's used as an ADU versus a casitas.
In the blue.
So what were the state bills that were passed and what changed in how cities have to approach ADUs? I mean, I think you alluded to sewer, you alluded to, I know there's parking, there's other things that changed.
I don't remember the exact, what bills were passed by the state of California, and what did they change? I don't remember the exact bill numbers. I believe they're on our website if you want to go and look. But primarily, the big ones were the ministerial process. So if you meet these specific guidelines within that city, town, or county, there is a process that you can go through, and as long as you meet that, they can't deny you. That's the big one. The other one was the utility connection fees. So again, you don't have to have secondary utility connection fees. Parking, before in a lot of places, parking had to be either in a garage or a carport, or at minimum, the back bumper had to be 20 feet from the street, something along those lines. Now you just have to have on-lot parking. In some areas you don't even need that. Some areas it can be street parking. Some areas don't require any parking. Typically, if you're within a half a mile of BART or public transportation, you do not need any additional parking. Another one was makes it easier to convert existing space within the home to become an ADU. And they also, on a side one, if you have an existing illegal ADU or non-permitted ADU, there are processes you can take to have it become permitted and legal. Those are the big four. There's a bunch also coming that I don't pay attention to until they pass, because there's been so many that it's for sure going to pass and then it never passes.
And to piggyback that, I did provide Vanessa with a very long but very detailed document from the state housing department that outlines specifics on a lot of what we are talking about. So she does have that and can, I believe, and is planning to forward that along with follow-up information that she's going to be sending to everybody. And I mean, it specifically talks about what can and can't be done with regard to the laws, and which means that whatever is in that particular document that the state says, this is the minimum, nobody can deny it if it meets those requirements. So you should be able to get that from her.
It sounds like we might still be having some mic problems,
Yeah.
so just please project as we go forward. Sorry about the technical difficulty. Right over here.
So question, on the state of California has said that it's okay to do this. Have you run into homeowner associations saying, nope, can't happen? So you haven't run into that?
They can't block it.
Yeah, the question is, can a homeowners association say, no, we will not allow an ADU? And the answer to that, as we have all said, is no, they cannot do that. This supersedes all of those kinds of regulations.
In the back, in the black there, yes.
With regards to building and pricing, are prefab units an option for an ADU? And if so, how does the financing look for a prefab unit versus building from scratch?
So the question is, are prefab units an option for an ADU, and then if so, how does financing work? I'll cover the prefab. Yes, to a degree. In most places, though, the architectural style of the ADU has to match the home. So you can't just slap like
Even
a storage
if it's behind,
container. Yeah.
even if it's behind?
Yeah. In most places, it has to match the architectural you really kind of wanted to, because as Penny was talking, increasing the value of, you don't slap something down that doesn't match the rest and it doesn't look good. So there are some, there's more and more. We're actually looking into a product called Quickcrete, where you can actually customize the design, but it's still, the walls and everything are built off-site and then you just assemble it there. So there are options.
So does that, is that a cheaper option than building from scratch? I would think so.
The hard part is finding the ones that'll actually fit. Like I said, right now, I've worked with some where they have custom built ones that they literally build in LA and they ship up here, and by the time you shut the road down, hire the crane, build everything, it's no cheaper than building the house. So, getting there, I guess the answer.
From the, again, the question on this was?
Financing, prefab.
Yeah, so again, in financing, we're talking again, the renovation 203K financing, and the answer is yes. We allow for modular and manufactured.
Back in the spot.
Yes?
The way back.
Way in the back, you got it, sir.
I have, as you mentioned, that some
Louder.
cities put big restrictions on rental of the
Sir,
ADU.
can you project a little louder, please?
Yeah,
Thank you.
some cities in Contra Costa County, probably all of the cities, put deed restrictions on ADU, indicating that you can only rent out one, not both of them. Now, what happens if the owner moves out of the county or out of the state and lives, in another state, and if he rents out both of them, what's the legal ramifications? That's number one. And number two, can the owner in that situation undo the ADU? It's an attached ADU, undo the ADU, like remove the kitchen and all that. Can the owner undo the ADU? Is it clear, the question?
So the question was about deed restrictions in Contra Costa County, and what if the owner moves out of one, out of state, so on and so forth. Did you ask about selling?
No, I'm asking about the renting both the units when the owner moves
So
out.
you cannot rent both units in Contra Costa County. There are some areas like Berkeley and Oakland that you can rent both, but not in Contra Costa County. The homeowner has to live in one, it has to be their primary residence.
I'll keep it vacant.
So
That's
do you
what
have
you're
loan
saying.
restrictions on that?
No, there's no loan restrictions.
So if the homeowner does rent both the units, then the county can go after.
I'm not a lawyer. Yes, technically they have legal recourse. How they enforce it, I don't really know. Can you get it declassified as an ADU? I'm sure you can. All you have to do is take out the kitchen sink, and it's no longer an ADU. So there is that option, and then you could rent out
The whole thing.
the one. I don't know how you rent out both.
No, that has to be done formally through the county, that I'm declassifying by removing the kitchen and all that.
No, I honestly don't know the process, because that hasn't come up yet. It may in the future, potentially. But as of right now, it has to be, you have to live in one or the other. You can live in the ADU and rent out the primary unit. And if you sell one, you have to sell both. You can't, it's not some tricky subdividing.
Yeah, that's what I know. Thank you.
Burgundy, right here.
Oh, do you have to pay a higher rate when you do the financing for the main house and the ADU?
That's a great question. And
Because
yes,
the main house, assuming you already have an existing loan on it. So if you're gonna get a smaller loan for the ADU, how are you gonna do that? Is that gonna affect your low rate that you already have on your
Yeah.
main house?
great question, and the answer is,
How's that gonna work?
so the question was, what is the financing in terms of, is it a higher rate than getting a traditional mortgage if you're refinancing or purchasing? And so the 203K renovation does allow for both options in terms of if it's an existing house that you own, and you have an existing first mortgage on it, you would be refinancing, you would be paying off your existing mortgage with this new 203K mortgage. The 203K, it is not meant to compete rate-wise with your traditional mortgages. It is meant to replace your HELOCs and your credit cards, which is what people prior to 203K have always been using. So that is what the 203K mortgage and its rates are competing against, us using credit cards. So as an example, in today's market, the 203K is running right about 6% on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, where the regular market is running between 5.25% and 5.5%. So it is an increase in rate. You are paying off the existing mortgage, and again, it could be used on the purchase of that property, or it could be used if you're the existing owner, and to be done as a refinance.
Can you do a conventional?
The question is, can you do a conventional 203K? Well, you can't because, well, that's not fair. Okay, yeah, that's, you can use a conventional refinance if you have the equity, first of all, and you have to have a lot of it to be able to do the $150,000 type of work, right? If you don't have that, then how are you going to get that kind of money out of the house?
Yeah, if your house is halfway paid off, let's say you have 50%.
But let's say your house is only 10% paid off, meaning you owe 90% on the current value of the house. Okay, that's not gonna get it done.
Right.
Okay, but the 203K loan, because it uses future value, that's how you can get it done. And conventional, again, their version of it is Fannie Mae's home style, the home style.